Good evening, everyone. Welcome. We are back for the third session as we continue to prepare characters for the official Weave in the Void campaign. I'm Tim Anderson, aka Renfell, and I am joined by the rest of our returning party members tonight. My setup is weird tonight, so it's going to be a slightly different order than I'm accustomed to, but we've got Bounty Code, we've got Christma, we've got Isildur, we've got Simmerg, we've got Sparrow, and uh, Drankendor, aka Nathan Napalm, aka I don't know what we're calling you yet.
Yeah, we don't know
Sorensen.
yet.
Well, welcome everyone. I myself and Joey, aka Eldador, and Chris, aka Chrisma, are the Wandering Hermits, and we are the creators of the World of the Weave and the Void, which is that world map behind me. It's also on Joey's wall. If you have been following along for any length of time, you've probably heard us talk about it quite a bit because we never shut up about it. Um, it is the thing we've been working on since March of 2021. It is a 5th edition tabletop setting, a point and click adventure game like the old King's Quest games, and a book series like Dragonlance. Or at least those are the reference points we use because that's similar to what we're building. The tabletop component is coming out June 1st, so here in a few short weeks. Christina has done most of the artwork for that. Nathan Napalm has been doing character art. He just turned in a pretty cool halfling piece today for the races. Joey and I came up with the story. I'm doing all the writing, and Joey's doing the bulk of the work on the adventure game, on the point and click game. So you can check all that stuff out over at patreon.com/wandering hermits. You can also pre order all of the things, subscribe, and get access to the book chapters, all the good stuff, and stick around because we got lots of fun stuff coming out of the pipeline later this summer. Now, for the past couple weeks, we have been doing character creation. I gotta grab my notebook actually. Berg. Um, Starting to create the party around this particular adventure. This is going to be quite a bit different than what a lot of people might be accustomed to when it comes to, say, a traditional tabletop campaign or Dungeons and Dragons campaign. I feel like most D&D campaigns are people have fairly standard kind of portrayal of the characters, if that makes sense. And also, almost everyone who streams does Forgotten Realms. So it's like you're going to get the Forgotten Realms halflings, you're going to get the Forgotten Realms elves and dark elves and drow and all that good stuff. Not that it's not fun and not that it's not good. But ours is quite a bit different, and the focus is going to be a lot more on the role playing aspect. And the last couple of sessions, we've been sort of ironing out how is this group going to work? Because there are some really different dynamics here, both from a political standpoint and a racial background.
Ground.
What's that?
Wasn't me.
Oh, thought I heard somebody say something. Um, so what we have here is the Church of the Elder Ways versus the Circle of Mages. We've got Nathan as a paladin in the group, which means he's going to look at all of the Fae a certain way. The Fae being all of our Elven, Dwarven, and Brownie and Halfling companions. And then we have Simmerk's character, who is going to be a death mage, dabbling into necromancy, which is a forbidden art across all boards. Like no one is going to let that fly. So we're going to be dealing with some very interesting dynamics from a storyline perspective, and that's sort of what we've been ironing out the past couple of sessions. This is the third session. Nathan was not here last week, so tonight we get Nathan up to speed with where everything was left off at the last session and what he might be wanting to do with his character. Um, have you had a chance? I didn't know if you'd gotten a chance to watch that whole video yet or not.
No, I
Nathan.
didn't get to see the whole thing. No.
Okay.
But I remember I assumed a lot of things based on the little bit that I did hear, and based on the conversation that we had the week prior. I think I've got a basic understanding. Did anybody change anything major since before?
Yeah. There's some stuff that
Oh,
went down
okay.
last week. So, let's do a recap for those of you who weren't here last week, and also for Nathan because he was out with his. I think it was your daughter. Was it a competition?
Yeah, both my kids.
Both
Yeah,
your
yeah.
kids. Um, So basically, we know the campaign somewhere in the Discord. It's probably lost there, but I think you have access to it from somewhere else. But there's the world map, and I had shared that with everybody last week to give them a perspective of where, from a storyline perspective, the campaign actually starts in Forkland. But it's really only a brief moment where, at least from the module perspective, we just get that's the roleplay hook. Kind of like in Lost Mine of Phandelver. You all start in Waterdeep. Like it's you're all gonna start in Forkland and you took the boat down here and now you're in Parthona and the adventure starts. But what we were doing this last Sunday was we were coming up with what are the roleplay reasons for why your character was in Forkland in the first place. That was one component. And the second component was what is like a long term, like, could be a hidden agenda, it could be a public agenda, but what is like the driving agenda for your character? And I'll give you some insight into what we did with the other characters, which might be able to give you some inspiration for yours. Um,
Okay.
so, and correct me if I'm wrong. I'm going off of my extremely horrible handwritten notes here. Um, so Sparrow ended up settling on a dwarven character, a dwarven warden who is going to
Mhm.
have a honey badger as her companion. And because of that,
Honey badger.
she's going to have a very surly nature and she's going to
Mhm.
constantly be getting into fights, especially bar fights. And there's a reason for this because she is an ale brewer and she is in Forkland. She has sort of an established indie IPA brand going on, and she's going to um, Parthona to seek out some trade permits and to see if she can't expand her business in that arena. Um, there is a existing hook in part one of the campaign where part of what's being delivered is a very special cask of no one's supposed to know about it dwarven whiskey. And so that created a perfect sort of role play component to get Sparrow into the existing lore because she can be the one who's supplying Than and Rockguard with the special sauce. Because of this, she spends most of her time in taverns and tap houses. And because of the nature of her and her companion, the honey badger, she's constantly getting into trouble and is going to. We're gonna have to figure out a role play. There's gonna have to be like a -5 anytime she's in a tavern setting. There's just gonna be like a -5 immediately to any
Charisma.
rolls, yeah, of any type when it happens in a tavern as it relates to like persuasion, intimidation, like it's just there's gonna be bar fights anytime we go anywhere with her. So that's a little bit
Okay.
into her character, and I think the hook for her is, and correct me if I'm wrong on this, Sparrow. The hook for you is that you're going to want to continue with this group because you need the coin to open up your own tavern, and that costs such a significant amount of capital that you're taking on any and all other jobs beyond your little homebrew indie IPA operation in Forkland, because you need the money to open up your own shop. That's at least the
Yeah.
initial hook. I don't know how much that'll change after we get through the events of Parthana.
And you added in that the hook to the story is that I'm delivering a specialty whiskey
Yeah.
or something.
Yes. Yes. That ties into the actual campaign. So and
Mhm.
all I'm going to once we have all of these ironed out completely, I'm going to write these up so that I have them ready to go for the first session on June 5th, and I will cycle these out to you so that everybody has like the written up version for their character to stick into the notes for their character. And then
Nice.
and then
Nice.
we'll try to get that out a week or two ahead of time. That way we've got time to go back and forth and iron out any last little details.
Nice. Okay.
Bounty, what you got questions, Nathan?
No, no, I like that. I was just gonna say that that'll be interesting too because like the coin. Correct me if I'm wrong. You said that was for you're trying to save up so that you can
Mhm.
open your own tavern
Mhm. And
with
get the
your okay.
permits. Yeah, that's why I'm there
Right,
for
right, right.
permits and things. Yeah.
Okay. All right.
Yeah, she basically has a little not tap house, but a little brewery in Forkland that she's
Brewery.
been
Yeah.
working on, able to sell some beer to the local merchants, made enough of a name for herself to say, yeah, I think I might be able to branch out and go to Parthana, and that's where the big money's at.
Mm.
Um, also, big other stuff in Parthana. Um, I think Bounty's backstory is that he's part of the, or at least peripherally at some level, part of the Forkland Conclave, who is their group of hedge mages, who branched off from the Circle of Mages years ago because they wanted to be able to have half elves and the quote unquote lesser bloodlines as and allow them to train because the circle won't take half elves and anyone who they view as having not because they view them as inferior but because they view magic being such a great responsibility that if you don't have a sufficient enough bloodline, you're at risk and you can cause a risk to everybody
Uh,
else. It's the same reason half elves are not allowed to um, be a crew member on any sea elf ships because they're weaker than sea elves. They're not as agile, and they can get hurt and killed, and they can hurt. Their accidents can hurt and kill other crew members on the ships because the mad seas are no place for anybody if they're not a pure sea elf. So it's not that they view the half elves as inferior. It's just that well, half elves aren't as good at these things, and we just can't run the risk of them potentially hurting themselves or hurting others. So that's the initial reason the Forkland Conclave was founded, but it's a group of hedge mages out of the city of Forkland. And every so often, I don't think we've decided on timelines because this came about out of discussions. I think it was Bounty who suggested this, that, or maybe it was I did in the book. I don't remember. Somebody there's a vote that happens every once in a while with the Forkland Conclave to determine who are going to be the next council members, and this vote is taking place. Oh, this is what was discussed last week that I think Bounty or Sparrow brought up. Somebody did. I don't remember who it was, but
It was
during
Sparrow.
during the vote, we're going to treat it like when the Pope is being voted on, like so
Mhm.
everybody's inside, closed off, no one could get in, and etc. And because of that, we're going to come up with a role play reason saying that, like, Bounty's brother or sister or mother or something like that, who is part of the circle of mages in Parthana, passed away. And they've been trying to get a hold of Bounty to have him attend the funeral and lay his mother to rest or his family member to rest. They haven't been able to get a hold of him. So they decided to send a mage to to Forkland via teleportation. And Simmerg voted, and or Simmerg raised his hand and said, "I'll go." Unbeknownst to anyone else, the reasoning for that being, well, because in Forkland at the mage compound, there is a book that he has heard about that might have some information regarding this necromantic relic that he's heard of and is rumored because the necromancy is forbidden. Death magic is tightly controlled, but he's read books that have said that once upon a time maybe necromancy wasn't forbidden. And why is it now forbidden? And there's this rumor that there's this relic and this information. So he's seeking out scrolls and books, and he's heard the rumor that there's one at the Forkland Conclave. So he sees a chance here. He's like, I'll take the message. Yep, right here. Gotcha, fam.
Makes sense.
So that gives him a reason to be in Forkland because he's looking for Bounty Code to deliver this message. Hey, your family member, and also secretly looking for this thing. So we've got Bounty covered, we've got Sparrow covered, we've got Simmer covered. Then we've got Bim Twinklebud, who is
Wait,
the
who? Wait,
Bim.
wait, 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 wait.
Twinkle butt.
Twinkle butt? Who's Twinkle butt? What? Oh! I already get it. I already know. This is obviously one of the little mischievous dudes.
Yes.
Okay,
So it's
go
Twinkle
ahead.
Bud, as in flower bud. But Bim Twinklebud, who's on the hunt for the great white albino boar Gizmo. Um, he calls himself the greatest brownie hunter that has ever lived,
Okay.
and he is in Forkland seeking out information, and he's going to get told that there's a hunter who lives in Parthana, so he's going to be on the boat as a passenger as well. Sparrow. Most of you will probably be passengers at this point. Um, Christina's character. Um, do you want me to say it or do you want to say it?
You can say.
Okay, since you're here in the same room. Um, she's going to be playing a wood elf rogue, um, and we decided today that she's going to be a part of an organization which is yet to be discovered. No, she's gonna be part of the Raven Syndicate. Um,
Oh, nice. Okay.
and she is in town because of the vote as well, and she has been sent to gather information on the new members who have been voted in to see if she can't figure out what political alliances are happening in Forkland because of the new votes and see what influence might be able to be gained and leveraged with the um, within the Raven Syndicate being a purveyor of information as they are, among other things. And so she's going to be reporting back to Parthana to the headquarters with her findings as the events unfold. Which brings us to Nathan's character. Why are you in Parthana? This is going to be the question for
So,
tonight.
a couple of things I don't know that you'll have to answer for me.
Hmm.
I assume Parthana's a pretty big city, that there's probably a church there.
Oh, Parthana is the headquarters. So Forkland is where I think you might have asked. I think you might be asking about Forkland.
Oh, I'm sorry. I meant Forkland. That's where we start.
Yeah,
I'm
there's
sorry.
there's definitely a church. It's not a temple, but there's
Right.
definitely a church.
A smaller,
No, it's
not as
still
big of a deal.
it's a harbor city, so it's still a big church. It's a couple hundred people maybe, maybe a few hundred people. We can just
And
I haven't
and
quite decided on the size yet, so that's a good
and,
question.
and would it make sense that there would be a paladin who just kind of is in service of the church for protection and that kind of things
Oh, I mean,
that I
just
might.
the paladins as they exist within the order, their day-to-day life is they are the workhorse of the church. They deal with
Right.
I'm the guard, I'm the mounted knight, I'm the crusader at the gate. The paladins are like I'd say like 90% of the church is made up of like paladins if you look at it that way. Like
Perfect.
so yes, that
So
yes.
so could I just be no big deal guy, just a protection type for the church, and I'm just already there in the town because I work uh, at this particular time for that particular church,
Sure.
like a newer entry paladin, you know what I mean, to the church,
Sure.
who's
Maybe it could
started
be your
doing.
first. Hold on, let me get my notebook again. It could be your first station.
There you go. Right. Like I've maybe trained my whole life because I would assume that's probably how that works. But I've never actually been on duty or any real action before. This is my first gig or something like that.
Can paladins be hired out, or do they have to stay in the church's work
I would.
area like an
That's a good
army
question.
soldier?
That's a
I
good
would think the
question.
church is like probably the elders of the church would probably decide where the paladins would be, like they could restation them, etc. I would guess.
It's a lot like the military in the sense that you're going to be given a station based on wherever the church decides to send you, whether or not you take off the book work. Um, in some cases, that might happen because you might have a break in between your station duties. But that's kind of going to depend on what you've been stationed to do.
Would it make more sense for me to be at a different church and the group meets up with me during the craziness that's going to happen? Would that make more sense? Would that be easier to
Like
explain why I would just leave my station? You know what I mean?
he's
Hmm.
already in Parthana, maybe.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's a good question.
Like, why would I? You know what I mean? Like, why would I leave if I'm stationed there? It's my first gig, and I'm like, I'll just leave with you guys. Like,
Unless they like maybe he's such a terrible paladin, they request a transfer. Like, let's send him to
request a
Parthana.
transfer.
Oh,
I'm
well,
okay with
hold
that.
up,
That's
He
hold up.
drinks too
hilarious.
much.
No, but that could also be maybe you've been training in Forkland for like the last 10 years or whatever, and
To
now
go
you're being sent off to Parthana
Mm,
for your first official stationing.
mm.
That I'm offering this as a potential storyline, not the one you have to
Yeah,
choose.
I like it.
That
No, I like
theoretically
it.
could work. It would also, in my mind, well, there's another route I'm going to mention, but let's continue this train of thought for the moment. I
Okay.
like that because it allows you a little bit of flexibility because you're not a hard line paladin at this point. You're still
Right.
fresh. You're fresh out of the training pits. It's your first gig. You're not indoctrinated to that level. You're still very naive about the world, very innocent about things, but you're also not you've not bought in to all the propaganda hook, line, and sinker, like because
Right.
you haven't actually got to Parthenia, and Forkland is a completely different environment. So it doesn't have the same level of sort of racism that's going on between the elves and the church, like between the circle and the
Oh,
church, because the circle,
perfect.
yeah, the circle doesn't exist there. It's just the Forkland Conclave, and the Forkland Conclave is a lot more relaxed. So that would give your character a that sort of background of not being hook, line, and sinker into the propaganda of the church. So that could work from a storytelling perspective. And then when you're getting to Berthana and you've been traveling with these people and you see that they're not so bad, and
Right.
these decrees are coming down, and you're like, wait a minute, I don't what? Like it would give you a role play reason to not necessarily just be going in, falling in line with what the church is giving. The other option would be to, which I think we previously discussed briefly, the other option would be to have you be born and raised in Parthona, you're on your first gig, and you've been stationed at the checkpoints um, because the church has gotten wind of that there's a sickness going around, and it could be a pandemic, and so you've been stationed at one of those checkpoints because the party is going to be coming through a checkpoint in the very first in the very first session we do. There is a checkpoint where they're going to be meeting paladins and Templars and this and such. So the alternate route would be you end up being a part of that group. You're stationed at the checkpoint, and you've got the built-in sort of indoctrination because you've been born and raised in Porthona. And then
Yeah, you know what? I kind of like that better because that makes things more interesting as things go on. Because, like, I'll be torn and etc. So, kind of like that.
the born and raised in Porthona.
Yeah, born and raised in Porthana. I'm a checkpoint guard. When they get to that area, there I am, right? And as things happen, I help them escape. Or I don't know what, depending on what's going on exactly, I'll find a a reason that I might go with them. And then I kind of like it to be a little mysterious too, right? Like, uh, the group might be a little weary. Like, why is he still with us, right?
Yeah, I'm trying to think about why, without spoiling anything from the first session. I'm trying to think about what would
Would
be
he
a
would he sense anything about Sim's character? Like, would he be able to
Good
sense the
question.
unholiness?
That's a good
well,
question.
if he as a Lobie level 1 paladin could, then the whole
The whole city would,
Right,
yeah.
that's a
yeah,
good point. Yeah,
he
yeah,
would
That is
that's
a
a
not
good
fair,
point.
it's a
Yeah,
fair
he would
point.
not be alive at this point.
right, right. Be
So
murdered immediately.
yeah, probably
Yeah.
not.
Yeah, Nathan, you missed out too last time because if you all we had this like really interesting conversation about how
Uh-huh.
like Sparrow, you don't even know what I'm
No,
saying yet.
I know what you're
This
saying.
really
She
interesting
doesn't.
conversation. Like if her honey badger dies, could
Nope.
res it as my minion. If
I
if
did.
the whole party gets wiped, instant army of the dead right there. You guys are my starters.
No.
Yeah, I
And
saw
We
somebody make a
we did.
joke
Oh
about
yeah,
that
boy.
actually.
and I think we also
Look,
said
I'm ready,
too
bro.
that if Nathan's paladin falls and he gets rezzed, does he become a death knight at that point? Like,
Yeah, Jason from the community said that. He told me that when we were streaming the other day playing P99. He was like,
nice.
"Just so you know, I've been trying to talk Sim into resin you if you die." And I was like, "Well, I guess I can't die."
No, I love that idea. Sounds like a good friend.
But at level 1, I doubt you could res things from the dead.
Level 1, you're of course not at level 1,
he's
but
he's thinking long term here. I'm gonna have to
it's a
really watch
long-term
myself.
game. I'm not about that instant gratification thirst in the campaign. I'm talking about playing the
See?
long game,
Your
homie.
badger is safe for a while.
At this time, yeah.
No way.
Way
Hey, I'm
you
just taking
die.
some notes here. So Nathan's character could choose to go along with the group. It's kind of it depends on what happens during that first session, but I can see one reason he would go with them. I think the other reason I could make work as well. I'll probably need to ping you independently, Nathan, because that'll probably be an optional choice. Not, without spoiling anything to you, just be
Right.
like, there are going to be some options presented at this moment. Pick one of these, and that's going to be your roleplay reason for continuing with the party.
I like it. Yeah,
Um,
I like it.
because otherwise, why would you not just remain at the checkpoint? Because that's where you've been stationed. So once we
Right.
figure that out, then the captain of that station can then send you off with the party. And then from there, you'll just be sticking with them until. Hang on, I gotta take some notes here.
So like the captain
Yeah.
could just want him to keep an eye on
Mhm.
us.
Right, that's what I was going to say. I mean, wouldn't that be kind of likely? Humans checkpointing and chaos is breaking out, and there's a big group of freaking Fae trying to exit.
Yeah.
Like
You
that
know,
looks
they
a little
suspect
suspicious.
they suspect us of something. They can't prove it at the moment, so they can maybe send Nathan to like kind of collect evidence against us.
Yeah, hang on. That's
Or just to make sure, right? Just
yeah,
to
that's
make
a really
sure.
good idea. Let me take some notes here.
Of course, I wouldn't disclose that to you all.
Right,
I would
we wouldn't
pretend
know
like I
that.
was just coming, like, "Hey, let me help you get out of the city,"
Right. So I like this layers that are in this group. We got the evil Sim layer, we got the spy Nathan layer, and then we actually even Chris is going to be a layer that we have
Right.
no idea.
Yeah.
She could have a
Yeah.
whole backstory of what the Syndicate is sending her to do.
And I just want you guys to know that I know we keep talking about like that my character may begin to see the error of the church's ways, or maybe
Right.
my character doesn't.
You know,
Maybe
For the latter.
he BS's you guys a little bit.
Right. You could be a double
It
agent.
could be either way.
You did talk about being a double agent more than once.
There's a
It
lot
could
of
go,
layers.
could
to
go
this.
either way.
So remember, Paladin, don't die in battle when I get that undead res.
Oh, jeez.
I won't accept the res. I'll just
Yeah,
I'll let it
exactly.
time out. I'll let it time out.
Be like, you can't res me. I use my shoot. I use my juice.
I'll just wait for the church. They'll come get me.
Yeah, it's gonna be a great time. I'm
A
looking
lot of
forward to
role
it.
playing opportunities, definitely.
Yeah. Oh, by the way, Renfell, my character, you all won't call me Simorg for this. You'll call me Grindam. Grindam. It's my name.
Grindam.
Grindam. Yeah.
Random.
When Crindom come. Yeah, I think I might be going with Galoon, which it's Gaelic for sparrow.
Oh,
That's
nice.
perfect though, because Grindam's minion will have a matching name. And
Damn it. Eyes off the badger.
Vowdy's
There's
like,
a dynamic already in the group
Oh.
before it started.
it's
I see a
perfect,
few
man.
fist
It's meant to
fights
be.
breaking out.
Oh,
You just-
man.
You
Can't
just see
fist
him
fight
at
when you got
night
a
around the.
corpse. Come on.
You see him around the campfire at night. And be like, so how attached to your honey badger are you?
Yeah, on a
Tell me
scale
about-
of 1 to
yeah.
10.
What kind of food does your honey badger like? What's his favorite pet name and toys to play with?
My dwarf punches first, asks questions later.
Yeah, that's gonna be an interesting. We got to come up with a. There has to be a trigger. Like she has to have a trigger when she's in a tavern setting. I mean, obviously, I like the idea of an immediate. Like you're gonna have an immediate -5 to any rolls of like persuasion, any sort of conversation checks. You're immediately gonna have a huge penalty on those because of your natural reaction. I'm in a bar, I'm immediately my hackles are up. But it would be fun to have a trigger point for your character where if there's this thing, and if that thing happens, or if that thing is said, or if you smell this one thing, or you see this one thing, like the honey badger, which is part of you, that kicks in, and you are now running on pure instinct, and not even your party members can hold you back.
Someone makes fun of your honey badger, you punch them.
Well, I'm thinking what's important to a honey badger. It's usually territory and food.
Territory,
It's the-
yeah.
It's the smell of domestic brews.
Well, that would make me fight. That might calm me down.
Anytime
Here, have
she
a beer.
smells the equivalent of Budweiser or Coors Light, she goes into a
Ew.
rage. Like,
Yeah.
no, don't drink that.
the cheap
Well,
meads.
But on
She's
the flip side, I think whatever your negative is to persuasion and stuff, it should be the exact opposite to intimidate or those type of things where I have a stronger intimidate factor, but I can't,
persuade.
talk. Yeah, I can't talk myself out of
yeah,
things.
All right,
go ahead.
and Renfo, one thing I wanted to add too, and this is something that I wouldn't likely share with the party, is that my father was a Templar who was murdered by an elf.
Mm.
You know,
Mm.
now when I say murdered, whose fault was it really?
From your point of view.
Right. So my father had antagonized an elf, and had gotten himself killed, basically. But from my point of view, an elf killed my father, right?
High
Just
elf.
trying to arrest him.
Yeah, high elf. Yeah.
Oh, one of my brethren.
Would that make sense for a high elf and him to have contact though?
Oh yeah.
Because
Well,
okay.
Yeah.
it's interesting because when Joey and I originally wrote this campaign, we said that high elves were going to be like never seen. But then as
Yeah.
we've evolved it since then, it just has made more sense. We have high elves, which is nobody's seen the ice elves. Nobody can
The ice elves. That's what I was thinking. I thought there was one of them that
nobody can
nobody
play
had
an
really
ice
seen.
elf, and it would be really tricky. I would want to limit anyone ever playing an actual mountain dwarf because the mountain dwarves are so anti everybody.
Social.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they're anti everyone that they literally don't have contact with the outside world and they only trade with the hill dwarves who then trade with the outside world. So mountain dwarves are off limits and ice dwarves are off limits, but everything else is pretty much open. So it would make sense. I would want to maybe dig into that a little bit more and think about that more about who was the elf, what happened there. That would be a fun thing. So one thing I do want to circle back around to with your character, Nathan, is going to be a long-term hook for your
Okay.
character. Because like with Simurg, it's going to be he's on the lookout for anything related to necromancy and to try to find this relic that he thinks exists because that would allow him this special power which he wants to use to take over the world. It's kind of like I don't want to spoil anything from Dragonlance, but there's stuff in Dragonlance that Rayson is looking for. It's that type of thing. Bounty code. Have we covered yours? I know what Sparrows is. Sparrows is I need the money for the tavern. Bim is on the hunt for the great white albino boar Gizmo. What's yours, Bounty? Have we covered yours?
I don't really remember anything specific. It
I
was
don't
more
either.
generic. Yeah, it was more general. Like I didn't want to be controlled by the circle. That's why I'm a hedge mage. I kind of want all access to all the magic circles if I want to. So I don't want to have rules and limitations put on me. But so yeah, I'm looking for maybe more power in my own way. But I'll have to think about a specific
Yeah, that's a
hook.
yeah.
What about this? What about this? Would this work, Renfell? What if? So we're gonna go with I'm at Perthonis, right? Is that how we're doing it now, right?
Yeah. You're
And
from Parthana.
I'm a guard at the checkpoint. What if an artifact had been stolen from that church, and I'm aware of it, and I want to be the person that locates this stolen artifact,
That's perfect.
and track it down, and return it.
Hold up, that's perfect.
Like I don't have to be assigned that. That's just what I know. That artifact was stolen, maybe while my father was in service or whatever. That might be a good reason why I would want to be the person to find it. And yeah, how about that? Yeah, like my father was maybe shamed a bit by the church because it was considered his fault that artifact was stolen, or there were rumors that he failed in his duties and allowed it to happen. Some people even think that he's the one that stole it, and it kind of brought shame on the family a bit.
So
But nobody could
this
ever
is this
prove
is
it.
this is this is spinning it even more fun because your family name could be tainted now.
Restore honor to
Where
your
some
family
people
name.
think we're like thieves of the church. Even some humans are kind of against us because they think we.
Ah. They don't trust you. So now you have like the humans
Now
don't trust you.
some do, some don't. It depends. Some people don't believe, and they thought my father was an honorable Templar. Others think that he was at least a
So in the higher up, some of the higher ups are grumbling against your name.
sure, yeah.
I like
Can't get
that.
a promotion.
Yeah.
So
that's-
if I were to come in and report at a church, which I would assume, you never know because you never know how things are going to happen and how things are going to fall. But just looking at it from today's perspective, without knowing what's going to happen, I would assume that at least at the beginning, I would try to report to a church and tell them what I know, right? And it would be possible if the people at that particular church or what have you wouldn't even trust me, right?
I like all of that because that gives us a fairly strong hook. Because the reasoning for this, Nathan, which we had talked about last week, was I have everything we have in the module that gets us going. That gets us the first few months of the campaign, and I already know where it needs to go beyond that point. But what I liked when we were talking about Simurg's quest for the relic, it got me thinking about how cool would it be if everyone had a similar subquest going on that's related to them specific, because that allows me to then create, these are just hooks that are for our campaign that are not going to be in the official modules, because
Right.
these are like extra side quests that are unique to our campaign, but it's a way to breathe a little bit extra life into things as we go along, because we can have little tidbits of like, oh, you're over here, Nathan just found a hint, Simmer just found a hint.
Yeah, you can add a lot
There's
of flavor. Yeah.
Yeah, we found a sighting of the great boar Gizmo, that kind of stuff. We can tease that along as we go in. Sparrow's will be a little tricky because hers is mostly um, just raising money, but we might be able to tantalize her with maybe there's a side quest to get this really cool
Brewfest.
tavern, a brew fest. Yeah,
Yeah, plus she's just going to possibly behave differently. Like obviously trap, nice pretty gem. You know what I'm saying? Like she might be more tempted to fall for it because
she's so
you know what I mean?
desperate for coin.
Yeah, because she knows what that could change her
Life.
life, a life-changing gem.
We got to come up with something for your character, Chris. Like, like what is your reasoning for joining the Raven Syndicate?
Yeah.
Were you an orphan child on the streets?
The foundling.
A foundling?
Mm.
Ooh, like the Mandalorian.
Yeah.
And you're trying to find your real parents. Like that's a cheesy one, but it's a doable one. If you're a wood elf, I'm gonna have to give that one some thought.
Mm, some.
Because you and I haven't talked a lot about the backstory yet. We were just talking tonight. She was
No.
trying to figure out whether she wanted to be part of the Raven Syndicate or if I was giving her options, like if you were gonna do the Raven Syndicate or it could be you were sent by the mages. But then I was like, the mages, I don't know. Would the mages have hired a spy when they have the, don't would they do
Maybe.
that? I don't know. The church, I don't see the church having any reason to worry about the conclave too much.
Was she going with the pirate idea, or did that change?
I forgot all about the pirate idea. Why is that not in my
I did
notes?
too. I did too.
Mm, which is better?
I forgot. Oh, I'm so glad
Spy or
Yeah.
Thank you for reminding me about that, Sparrow. I'd forgotten. Why did I not write that down in my notes?
I forgot about it too. We totally did talk about that like last week at the
Yeah.
end of the meeting.
Yeah, I thought she said that's what she was kind of leaning towards, was a pirate. Because that'd be really cool. We'd have the reason why I'd be there, the ship be there.
It
Yeah.
literally is in my notes, and I skipped over it.
That,
It
that one.
says she was just hired to meet a
Oh,
captain
yeah.
in Parthona.
Hmm.
Was hired by Fearin as a deckhand, and she's going to be transferring in the city.
Hmm.
Okay.
Okay, so
Apparently,
the,
But
Sparrow was the only one paying attention.
apparently.
yeah, because I wasn't sure what spite or the.
Well, it might not be pirate actually. It might be more. Maybe you are. We might change you, Chris, from a. What you and I need to have a chat about whether or not you want to do a wood elf or a sea elf, because
Ooh.
a sea elf would make more sense if you were going to
Yeah.
be becoming a pirate or a ship-based person, because Firin is a sea elf, and she would hire because of your sea elf, and you could literally be a sea elf rogue, starting off as a deckhand, and your quest could literally to become the captain of your own ship one day, which would
Yeah.
hang on, this just gave me a whole sub quest for the whole
Nice.
group, because the group
She
needs
would
to get its
need,
own ship now.
yeah,
And
and you need
this,
more than one person.
yeah, and if
Ooh.
the group has its own ship, then you could
That would be
eventually.
handy.
What's that?
That would be handy.
Right, that would
I,
allow you.
I know where there's some ships.
Well, this also just I know how yeah, the way the way the module ends. If Chris's character, if that's like one of her prime motivations. Oh yeah, that's.
We could work out good.
Oh yeah,
That's how
that
Basically.
we
could work
have to
out
get
good.
out of the city because she needs to get to her boat.
Yeah.
Ship.
Hang on, I need to. I just had some. Hold on.
Make sure you
Creative,
highlight it.
The juice.
creative,
Yeah.
juicy. Highlight: Chris is pirate.
Ren is playing 4D chess right now with the campaign.
Yeah, it's like visual
Basically.
stuff's going on here. Chris
We get to
is.
see Chris dressed up as a pirate.
Yeah.
Gotta
I
get a
expect
big old hat.
I thought
expect
you're
an eye patch.
Sparrow.
Yeah.
Better be
Jack
careful
Sparrow.
with Sim in the group. He might turn into one of those cursed undead.
Oh,
Hey.
dude.
I know he was already
wanna
thinking it.
Your characters don't know any of this stuff.
Not yet, but when
We're
you
not-
cast,
we're not in
when you
character.
cast.
RP right, friends. I'm just saying.
I don't know. You keep making glances at my badger.
Like you're hungry for
They're not
them.
glances. They're
Maybe we
full-on
think you're trying to
stares.
eat them or something.
Yeah. Gives me the willies.
I mean, imagine it falls all slain. You know what I mean? Gets risen, gets
No.
all vicious with its teeth, like all sticking
I
out.
would not be bonded as a warden to an undead badger.
Wouldn't have a choice.
No.
So if you're bonded to a badger that's then, like risen as an undead, does that like taint
would
you
break-
via the bonding?
No,
Just
it
curious.
would break the
No,
bond.
Oh, that's unfortunate.
I feel like it might break the bond
Yeah.
though of her
Mm.
between it because it's
That
dead.
would be mine.
It's
fool.
yours. Yeah, it's not hers.
Yeah, that would be.
Oh,
I would.
yeah.
I would assume the way that would work was that once death
Oh.
occurs, it severs the
Mhm.
bond between the warden and. Now think about that too, because that's going to be. Yeah.
Ooh.
Hang on a second. Don't. I can't lose my train of thought. Hold up.
Don't kill my
Yeah.
badger.
Don't
Also,
just-
Sim, if
I
you turn
won't.
me into an undead paladin, I just want you to know I'll spend the rest of the game role playing an undead and just be like,
That sounds beautiful. And everybody else
Just
can try
so
to
you
figure out
know.
what you're saying. Like, anybody got a translator? I don't
so
speak
you know,
undead. I
I'll
just
do
I just
it.
raise them and command them. You know,
We'll go up. We'll be trying to talk to somebody in town. I'll just be like, ooh.
I can work with that.
brains.
So like, what is wrong with that guy?
Mhm.
Don't worry, he's just a little sick.
He's a little sick.
He's a little sick.
Little
so-
plague.
He's a little plague. Just a little plague, man. It'd be all right. Just give him 5 feet.
Devin heard the news about the plague, man.
It's
Coronavirus.
Coronavirus.
Got that
So for
corona.
context, here's for context for those of you who are on the stream who don't understand this. We were the other day, last weekend, I think it was last Saturday morning. We were in West Corona in P99 EverQuest, and we were hunting bandits. And all of a sudden, I see on the text below, your eyes start to itch, and I was like, "What?" And then it's like you start to develop a cough, and my immediate reaction was that coronavirus meme of that. I think it's a black woman who's like coronavirus, and I literally just went, "Oh no, I got the coronavirus!" And it
Yeah.
was really funny in the moment.
Perfect.
I have now since I'm trying to make that a meme every time I run through the Coronas now. I'm just like coronavirus. You had to be there, and you have to be a fan of EverQuest to understand that meme. Um, but it does work. Well, I like all of these stories, so this gives me um, an additional workload now because I need to actually draft these up into document form and get those circulated. We'll do a I'll put that as a Google Doc so that we can all have access to it and we can tweak our individual parts. Just make sure that we've got it all right. Let me put this down in my notes. Draft all as Google Doc. Okay. Do you have any pirate outfit stuff, Chris? I know you have pirate earrings.
Yeah.
Big hat.
You have pirate
Needs to
earrings.
watch.
Eye patch.
Need to watch Cutthroat Island. Captain
I need-
Morgan.
Ooh, I forgot about that movie with
Oh.
Matthew Modine and
Mhm.
Frank Langella and what's her name?
I can't remember her name now, but
She's the main character, and I can't remember her name now.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah,
it's
the
a
actress that-
female pirate captain.
female pirate captain, dude. Mm.
League of Her Own. What is her name? Like,
I don't know. She's in a bunch of crap.
she hasn't done anything well. She
That's
has.
probably why we don't know her name.
No,
if it's
she had
one-
Google
she had
away.
kids.
No.
IMDb.
She had kids and took a break. Gina Davis.
Oh yeah.
And she's older now. I mean, I think she's around 70 maybe. But
What is she really?
I'm gonna go look. I don't
We're all
misquote me on
man.
that.
old.
What type
that
of
movie's-
armor? Is
Yeah.
it
Dude.
leather armor for awarded? Or is it the fighter? What does a fighter wear
In what game?
in 5e?
She's 66 years old, FYI. Now I can stop being sidetracked.
A fighter wears plate or chain.
Chain or plate. That's what I was saying earlier. The warden is influenced by their pet. So I would assume because a honey badger is very agile, very quick, but also very burly, that you're not going to want to be a plate wearing
No.
dwarf.
More like a rogue. We kind of discussed.
That
Studded leather armor.
that might even make more sense if you are restricted to leather and to retain your mobility. When you say roguelike, you mean like
Hide in
light
shadows.
weapons.
Well, they're not really
Honey badgers,
stealthy.
yeah, honey badgers don't hide in shadows. Honey badgers are
No?
very much.
They just come at
They're
Oh.
mean.
you.
Yeah, they're
Yeah,
brutal.
they are. They're fearless, like literally fearless.
It's
They don't
almost like a
go-
berserker, honestly.
Yes,
Yeah.
a berserker.
Ooh, maybe two-handed axes or something.
Like dual
Everything.
wielding axes or a big two-handed axe or something. But I would say that that's going to be more like a berserker. Like we might even have that. I'm taking more notes now.
I have a question for y'all whenever you're ready.
Oz, Meat Hook
Ooh,
says.
yeah, meat hook.
That's a
That's a
good
good
idea.
idea. Is there that type
hang
of
on,
weapon
hang on.
in the
I didn't
5e?
see what he typed.
Like
Straight up
Wolverine
claws.
claws.
Yeah.
I'm
Oh.
sure we could.
Wolverine, honey
That would make
badger.
sense.
Yeah.
That's I love the claw idea.
Well, I mean, it wouldn't be like Wolverine as in coming out of her
Right.
skin.
Coming out
No,
of my
no.
hands.
But
Right, right. It would
like
be like gloves.
Like
yeah,
brass
like
knuckles.
yeah, but we could have like some sort of dwarven made claws. I like that idea. So, but I also like the idea of that berserker rage type element, which comes into play.
Mhm.
That's how we could literally have that be. Because I was thinking earlier about certain scenarios in a tavern, what would trigger you, send you off into this instinctual I can't control myself moment, and that's when this berserker rage kicks in, where you're just like, "Honey Badger, don't give a shit,"
Yeah.
and start tearing up the tavern.
Mm.
At what point your party members either help you or be like, I don't know, this crazy lady, like,
All right, what's happening?
Hmm.
tab, please. Check, we're on our way.
Check, please.
Okay.
Yeah, if the claws don't work out just with like planning out for damage and things, I'd like to go with the 2 axes
I
idea.
think the
I like
claws work pretty good. We could just, more than likely, I could just make those straight up like a 1d6 weapon.
Mm.
But like anything else in D&D, when you start off, it's just going to be 1 attack per round, and then as you get higher in level, you'll get 2 attacks per round, and then we'll look at multiple attacks beyond that. Because if we treat it like a hybrid warrior, um, because the warden is something that when I originally wrote it in there, you're you are largely, so Simmerg is going to be the playtest for the necromancer, and you're going to be the playtest for this style of warden. So I'll be able to refine these 2 classes in the book as we get 6 months down the road, and I have more information about how all this is going to work out. And that's the revised version 1.0, 1.1 or whenever that comes out. But I like the idea of, I think the claws could work. Wouldn't have them be hugely long though, but we'd have like little stubby 6-inch like.
More like brass knuckles, but with blades.
Yeah, I like the idea of having like 3 to 6-inch long
Mhm.
blades on there, and just get in there and Honey Badger,
So would
don't
that
give a
be
Right.
shit.
slashing or
It'd be
piercing?
slashing.
Because I
If
like
you
that.
stab him, then it'll be piercing.
That's
Just-
true.
You're bound to your animal and you fight like your
Yeah.
animal.
Yeah.
So that would be a caveat. So your character will need to be restricted to leather armor so that you can retain mobility, and you'll have a claw type weapon. That's your preferred weapon of choice. And we have to figure out the honey badger too, because I don't know. I'm gonna Google this really quick.
Bite, claw. Their bite force is pretty sick.
Yeah, they're super territorial too.
Yeah. They have huge territories.
Perfect.
Did you know there's a kind of freaking spider, or maybe it's a tarantula, that commonly finds badger holes, I guess, nests or whatever, and goes in and kicks the badger out? Like, that is a mean freaking spider, dude.
That is a nasty
Ooh.
spider.
Oh,
It's another
man.
I
reason.
don't. You'd have to look it up, but I remember learning that in school, and I was like, "Are you
Oh.
kidding me?
That's
Like, how
another
mean is this spider?"
another
Jeez.
reason
Yeah,
not,
Maybe
not
I
to
have a
like
fear of
spiders.
spiders.
Yeah.
Another
I have a
reason why
fear
I
of
hate
spiders.
spiders. Yeah.
Yeah. So wherever that lives, I don't want to live there.
Yeah, the regular badger is a little too weak, so I'm gonna have to come up with some stats for the honey badger. Because the regular badger, it's a 3 hit point animal. That's not.
Oh.
Like, no way.
Also, I think we said your hit point's gonna be 8. You're gonna have a hit die of 8 for your class. We talked about that last week, I remember. So I think we'll just probably end up doing the same with the honey badger. Have you both be a 1d8 creature, and then I need to look up the honey badger itself, because somebody did a giant honey badger, and I can't use that because it doesn't work. It's not actually from the 5th edition, but it says 95 hit points, speed 30, 18 armor class, immune to poison, which honey badgers should be immune to poison, so that would definitely
Right.
be, it's immune to poison.
Mhm.
Yeah, because that's why they eat snakes and crap.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Yeah.
multi-attack. I like the idea of multi-attack, but not until like third or fourth level. But
Right.
it's it
Yeah.
starts off with a claw attack, then or you could choose a claw or a bite. I like that. So you could choose a bite or a claw. Those are the two attacks that you get to choose from, just like a fighter would be able to choose between a bow or a sword. And then you'll eventually get multi-attack, and you can do one of each or two attacks, like two claws or one bite, one claw, things of that nature.
Was saying the honey badger's bite is so powerful that it eats the entirety of its prey, including the bones. The jaws are even powerful enough to eat a turtle shell without
Dang.
difficulty. Like just crunch, crunch.
That's crazy.
Yeah. In
We
that
also
video, that thing took the snake's head off with one bite.
Beautiful.
we're also going to have to look at thinking about the fear factor of a honey badger in polite society, and how are people going to react, and how knowing that the honey badger's natural instinct is to not give a shit. How is that going to play out in a city setting when you're having to be wandering the streets? Because you need to be able to, like I said, the animal and you have a bond. You can understand what it says. Other people can't. So I'm sure on some level there is the conscious knowledge that I can't go around attacking everything, but there have to be trigger points for
Because
the
it's an animal.
yeah, it's an animal. It's got to have a trigger point. So we need to look up like what animals are the natural, like what are some of the natural enemies of honey badgers, and we could play that into effect as well. Because if it sees one of those things in a civilized setting, you're gonna lose control of it. It's just gonna go. I saw a thing over there. And what are some other things like if it feels threatened, if it thinks that you're being threatened, like those are scenarios when you're gonna lose control of the honey badger, and it's gonna fuck some shit up, and that may or may not get your group into a lot of trouble. So on the one hand, you'll have the mischievous Bim turkey butt doing stuff.
Another thing about honey badgers, though, and I totally get what you're saying and agree with it, but they are super intelligent. They're
Sure,
not
but
just like a dumb animal that attacks.
Yeah, he just means like they're still an animal, so there's a little bit of unpredictability every once in a while, and maybe just only on certain things.
Yeah, because it can't all be pros. We have to have some cons too.
For sure.
So,
like if a dog comes up and it starts attacking it because it's a badger, it's gonna kill the dog, and then we'll be in big trouble.
Yeah, and those are the types of scenarios I'm thinking about when you're in towns, like because people's dogs aren't going to be trained.
But even a dog, you have such a range of how well did you train the dog. If you have a poor owner, that dog could be wild. If you have a really well trained dog, he can be, word commands. He could be told to not attack. So like the training
like police dogs.
Police dogs are much more trained than a wild, hobo's dog.
Well, I looked it up, and lions, leopards, and hyenas. Probably not a lot of those in the campaign, but are their natural predators. There could be lion statues, or you never know.
Yeah, I know we're not going to find those probably in the cities. But one other thing I was thinking about what Bounty was just saying was, we're thinking about a medieval setting. I'm thinking most of the dogs you're going to be coming across, as an example, would not be trained animals. They're going to be street dogs. So we'll play that one by ear. I need to dig into the honey badger more.
Yeah, and honey badgers also, or badgers in general, they don't like a lot of noise. So if it was really crowded somewhere, they would want to get out of that situation.
Oh, it's a horrible mix, being a bar owner with a.
Well, true. It could be used to somewhat of a city. Like I don't know how big.
Yeah. Like I'm talking if things got like really loud or something, like
Mhm.
real crazy, it might maybe
It could be
react to that.
claustrophobic. I mean, that could be a fun little
Yeah, that could be fun. Yeah, I like
aspect
that.
to add. Is
They
that?
live underground, don't they?
Yeah,
Oh
that's
yeah,
true.
that's
They're
That's
true. They
true.
burrow. Yeah, they
that
live
would
in
suck.
tiny little holes. Yeah.
That would be ironic.
But I guess my question is, in the world of the Weave and the Void, how common is a warden or warder?
That's a good
Warden.
question.
How
Um,
used they are seeing people bonded with these exotic-ish animals.
yeah, I'd say it's not going to be super common, but also not.
Is it common knowledge though that
Yes, common
exists?
knowledge.
Okay.
Common
Okay.
knowledge.
Right.
So not
So you might see
necessarily.
somebody.
Yeah, you'll
Nobody be
probably.
freaked out that she
It's
was
gonna
running around
be
with an
no, but
animal.
most people are not gonna have exotic pets, if
They would
that
have
makes
like
sense.
what would be more normal? Just a
A
wolf or
weasel, a cat, a little bird. You know,
oh, okay, okay, okay.
this is a honey badger is an exotic pet. So
Yeah.
this is definitely off the beaten path in terms of what we're creating for her unique warden. Um, but like yeah, a small little ferret, a cat, an owl, things of that nature would be commonplace to see, um,
Okay.
as opposed to. Sorry, I'm trying to like do a
Sharp,
band-aid as we're
sharp
talking.
claw.
Multitasking for the win. Um, so yeah, I need to just dig into the honey badger some more and figure out what I think are some good perks to add.
Farrell will need you to do a 100-page essay on honey badgers.
No problem. I'd probably do that just fine. I'm a fish and wildlife person. Don't forget.
Oh yeah.
That's what I went to school for.
Trying to think.
Love me my nature.
Okay. I think we've got a pretty good wrap now on everybody's backgrounds and stories. Next week, we'll probably dig into Fantasy Grounds and start actually creating the characters. Um, that may only take one session. It might take more than one session because we're also going to need to create your animal. We're going to need to create your honey badger from scratch. We're going to need to find artwork to represent that honey badger. You'll need an avatar, um, all that kind of stuff. Trying to think. I don't think we have to do anything too off. I'm trying to think ahead because we only have one member of the church. So from a spell list component, you should be able to. We might have to. There might be some exceptions to what you could pull from the spell list, Nathan. I would say
Right.
most stuff we can use. What we would want to stay away from is anything that's a divine spell. Those are the ones that we probably would need to look at and say, is that adaptable, or do we just throw that one out and just not use it at all? Because some of
Makes
those
sense.
spells are so tied into being from the deity,
That's right. Yeah.
that it wouldn't make sense to use it, considering this is quantum energy.
Right.
Although I will say, after having played through Guardians of the Galaxy, that Square Enix game, I got some crazy ideas because I was already thinking ahead, going, yeah, they worship this god, or this goddess, I should say. And I've teased a little bit that at one point in time there was a pantheon of deities, but we don't know enough about it yet. That's future stuff. Um, and everything that the Church of the Elder Ways believes is based on technology, right? But then when I played, I'm not going to spoil anything here for anybody who hasn't played that game, but if you've not played Guardians of the Galaxies, that game has a really interesting the one of the major bad guy elements is a faith-based entity who have magical powers based on the faith energy. And I went, "Oh, that's not the same thing as what I'm doing, but that's a really interesting correlation that I can think about of how where does the quantum energy come from?"
Right.
And some other stuff. So, but the one thing I want to stay away from the paladin perspective is just anything that's directly divine from the handbook that says this is the blessing of your god. We'd have to strip that.
Right.
We'll have to strip those ones out. But
Right.
everything else we should be able to do. Circle mages. You're not going to need to worry about it until you're level 4 sim because level 4 is when you have to specialize. So up until level 4, you'll have access to the same spells as bounty. The caveat might be that we might, if you're necromancy, if you're death mage focused, we might treat you as a specialty mage that focuses on the necromancy side of things. We'll probably need to take a look at that when we're doing character creation to look at the spell lists.
Yeah. To see how it like actually works with what's in your.
Correct.
Yeah, makes
Is
sense.
there a lot of spells in D&D to deal with death?
Yes.
There are? Okay, I haven't checked in a
Well,
while.
5th edition. I'm looking it up real quick. Necromancy spells. Chill Touch, Sapping Sting, Spare the Dying,
Okay.
Toll the Dead, Cause Fear, False Life, Inflict Wounds, Ray of Sickness, Blind and
Okay,
Deafness.
cool.
Yeah, there's actually, I mean, these are all from cantrips all the way through first, second, third. There's a lot of necromancy spells.
Okay.
So, you may want to pepper that with normal stuff so that people don't get too suspicious.
Right. You gotta like maybe
Like chill touch, you could say, "Oh, it's a cold spell."
Yeah, Chill Touch is
yeah.
is one that's it's death magic based, but it's not like evil if that makes sense. It's
Mhm.
not like outright. I'm looking at these right here. I'll just
Yeah.
let me share this
You
in
know, it's like choking with the force. It's not
Mhm.
outright evil.
It's just squishing.
Yeah, you
Really, it just depends what you're squishing.
I mean,
throat or
Yeah, the only
Yeah.
reason we know that that's evil is because of Darth Vader. I mean, otherwise we wouldn't even know
yeah, I just put that in
exactly.
the
that.
Discord chat. So that's
or
a
it could be a show
list.
of affection. I mean,
It could
Yeah,
be.
some people are
A
into
big
that. That's
hug.
right. That's pretty
He's-
popular these
Let
days,
me
actually.
Oh my
hug.
gosh.
Come here. I'm not Frankenstein.
Well, while you guys are reading, I do have a little fun fact. A fun fact about badgers.
Okay.
Says it's no surprise that foes of the badger often meet a messy end, but there is one vicious habit that makes us males gulp with fear. It has been known that honey badgers go for anything dangling they can easily reach, most especially between the legs.
Oh my goodness.
This action has been reported many times and is a tale that is often told around campfires in the African bush when the discussion inevitably goes on to the more gruesome tales.
Hey, watch out, robe wearers. Watch out.
After the
Wear a
I'm wearing
cup.
plate.
castration of its prey, they will potentially wait for their victim to bleed out before commencement of the feast.
Good lord.
Mm.
So
Good
lord.
that's a good one, Renfell. That reminds me. So they are kind of I know badgers aren't probably in the weasel family, but they share a lot of similarities. So like shiny things,
Mm.
you know, like they'd be tempted to steal something really shiny out of a shop or, you know, whatever.
Mm. We're gonna have fun
Not
with
if I
this.
steal it first.
Quite interesting.
This went a dark place.
So that list
For real.
I was just looking
Yeah.
at.
Man, freaking
That
Look at me. I did not lead into that. That was not me.
that necromancy list that I just shared, you could honestly, I think we can just start your character off and just go straight to the necromancy stuff from 5th edition. There are some exceptions, like because you can't be doing stuff without getting
Yeah.
caught. There's like the animate dead, which is 3rd level. You're gonna want to
Yeah,
stay away from
bad.
that. Revivify, that's 3rd level. Speak with the dead, that's gonna be probably a no-no. At least in front of other people.
Yeah, I
Right.
mean, don't tell me
Secretly.
I'm doing it, dude. It's just a matter of who's there.
Honestly, there's all the way to 9th level. I feel like we could just take that list that I just shared there, and that's your spell list all the way up.
Someone undead. Get that beautiful spell.
Here's a thought for my hook for my character.
Mhm.
If we can just what if my quest for power and knowledge and not being bound by circles or anything like that, and I actually want to expand my magical powers and abilities to include the ability to use a relic somehow.
Like a church relic?
Yeah, yeah. I'm like, screw it. I'm going to figure out how to use a church relic. It might not be possible, but that could be my driving
Expand your tool
force.
set. Is
Yes.
that why to be able to do even more to get more
Yes.
powerful? Would that be the reasoning behind why?
Yeah, yes.
That sounds
It doesn't
reasonable.
it doesn't mean it's possible or can be done, but that could be my driving force.
What do you think, Renfo?
I'm putting it down in the notes. I mean, it's definitely it's a good thought process.
Yeah, somebody would definitely think that for sure. You know, like there's another power I could tap into,
Yeah.
obviously. And if humans could do it, then why
Right,
couldn't I? You know what I
exactly.
mean?
I'm a high elf. I'm better
Course.
than a human.
Exactly, dude.
Now, is there
This
anybody in
is
the
known.
party? Is there anybody in the party who maybe maybe wants to be a fae who admits and kind of knows that faes are a little screwed up? Anybody? Any takers?
I think my character like secretly does, but doesn't want to talk to anybody about it, only because there's like power that could be.
Okay. So any self-deprecating fae?
Yeah, I mean, I have a question for y'all. Is it more concerning for you if you see a character that's always super calm but has evil intentions, or is always pleasant and you can't really tell that they're evil? Which
I
one
think
like raises more alarms for you as a human, or as a
I think the
you're
quiet
being-
type raises more alarms,
Really?
right? Like, yeah, I
Thanks.
think so. Like, because you're like, dude,
Cool.
You don't
So
know
I'll
what
be
they're
more
thinking.
pleasant with people then.
because
All
well,
right.
most people just talk
See-
about like, oh, sorry guys, I know that looked really bad, but I can explain myself. But if you just don't say nothing, it's just kind of like,
Yeah.
I'm just gonna be a
um,
very kind death mage.
There you go.
to
That'll
make it
throw
hard for us to believe. Like, no
that'll throw
way.
everyone off.
I'm just. I mean, I'm gonna be very kind to everyone. I'll
No,
smile a
That's a
lot.
good way to play that. That's a great way to,
Be very kind.
shield and protect yourself from people like, no, Sim. Oh, he's a great
No
guy.
way. Right.
We had a beer last week. He was awesome.
I mean, real talk though. Look, I just want to love everything I read. It's not like I want to.
How far does that love go? Like,
Love.
To the grave and beyond. Exactly. That's why I reach out to bring them back. I want them to suffer in the grave. Just be by my side. I will love you unconditionally.
revivify. Well, I
All
think
the
we've got hooks established for everybody. Wants to learn how to use a church relic. Chris wants to become a ship captain. Bim is looking for the great albino boar. Sim wants to get the relic. Sparrow wants to open a
Yes.
tavern, and Nathan's character is on the hunt for an ancient relic that was stolen from his father and tainted the family name. Killed by an elf. These are all good hooks, good stories. We've got starting stories for everybody. I'm not going to have them ready right away, but I will start to get these drafted up. And once I have a Google document ready, I'll get that shared out with everybody, and we will then be able to plug those into our character bios and go from there.
Nice.
I feel like that's a pretty good reanimate the badger. This is a really good stopping point, I think, for tonight. Leading into next week, where we're actually going to start to work on creating our characters for the first time in Fantasy Grounds. So we'll get patched up and ready to go for next week. If you are not already doing so, ladies and gentlemen, don't forget to follow along here on Twitch. If you feel so inclined, it would be awesome if you could support this party with a subscription. There are perks coming down the pipeline. We're just getting ready to get back into the campaign. Once the campaign kicks off, we'll have some perks associated with that. You can also join over at patreon.com/wandering hermits. You could start in at $3 a month and go all the way up. Pre-order the tabletop books. You could pre-order the physical book or the digital book, I should say, of the actual novel. There's the point and click game. There's a whole bunch of stuff that you can get over there and pre-order and check out. So go forth and do that. If you're watching this after the fact on YouTube, don't forget to subscribe to the channel, hit the bell icon, all those good things so you get updates for future streams and content. Join our Discord. Links are down below. And we will be back next week, same time, same place, 9 p.m. Central here on Twitch, and every Sunday thereafter as we lead up to the launch of the campaign, which kicks off on June 5th, 2022. So it's just we're about a month out. I don't know how many weeks it is exactly, but we're roughly like 4 or 5 weeks away from starting that official campaign. So hopefully you'll be tuning in for that, sticking with us as we continue to prep the characters and get all of our storylines wrapped up. Next few sessions will be Fantasy Grounds as we dive in and get all that ready. And then we'll start doing some prepping. We might even, depending on if we have time or not, depending on where we're at with the character creation within Fantasy Grounds, we might even play a session 0 in Forkland. But that remains to be seen because I don't actually have maps for Forkland or anything. It's just because we're doing so many backstories, it might be fun. I teased this last week. I said I might do it, but it's going to depend on whether or not we have time as we get closer to that launch date once we're wrapped up the character creation in Fantasy Grounds. So stay tuned next week, everybody. Hopefully we'll see you then. I will let everybody say good night as we go around the table.
Good night, everyone.
Nice.
Not everyone.
See you guys.
Don't
Save the honey badgers.
don't let the Necros get you in the night.
Yeah.
The dead need love too.
They're really nice. Like,
Oh, that was bad.